Hello everyone and welcome back again. I'm Karen, otherwise known as Wellies and Waffles, and welcome to my polytunnel. I've got lots growing at the moment, but don't worry, we've just gone into May now, but there is so much that you can start growing. So if you've not even started sowing anything yet, don't panic, because May is the perfect month to start everything off. Pumpkins, squash, courgettes, beans, peas, radish, lettuce, kale, broccoli, all sorts of things. So I'm going to go through a whole list of things that you can start off now in May. I'm in the UK, as you can see. I got this. I keep using this. It's absolutely perfect. It's got some vegetables in it from a supermarket, and it's been great for carrying in my tomatoes in and out of an evening, because I've not been leaving them outside yet. So I just keep carrying them in and out with this cart. It's a nice thick box. You know, when you're older, you just appreciate a good quality box, don't you? Anyway, I've got off course. So let me show you what can be grown in May. Right, so squash and pumpkins, the beasts of the garden. Oh, there are so many varieties and I just want to grow them all every year, but I can't do. So I have to narrow it down, which is a very difficult task indeed. But you can go from the tiny ones like the baby boo, little white pumpkins, great for Halloween, great for decorations over Halloween as well, not really for eating. And then you get the huge ones, the big jumbo pink banana ones, which I try and grow every year. In fact, I haven't started any off yet, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to do this year because I've got a few other ones that I want to try. And obviously, you've got to think about space as well, because they do go on and on and on. I think like 10 to 15 foot, some of these vines that take over. I end up getting swamped in here. So great big jumbo pink banana ones, they're really good, but they need warmth, so please do them inside if you're going to try them in a polytunnel or a greenhouse. Or if you live somewhere warm, obviously, if you're very lucky that you live somewhere warm, rather than the Antarctic like me in the north of England, then you're more than welcome to do them outside. And then we've got the big, gnarly, alien pod ones, as I call them, the blue hubbards. Now these ones, if they get little scratches on the outside, they just go so gnarly and weird looking, but they're fantastic. I love it. Really tasty as well. So I use them in risottos, curries, just roasted as well. They make really nice soups. If you haven't got the space for these large ones, obviously you can just do one vine if you are lacking in space, or if you want to do a smaller size squash, the You Cheeky Curry is a really good one. It's also called an onion squash because it's a tiny little one like this. Again, really good for hollowing out as well. You can hollow it out and stuff them, or roast them and use them in like you would any other squash or a pumpkin. Those are good outside and they're good to grow inside as well. Let's have a look at some of the squash. So this is called Guese, I think it is, squash. This is a Mayan squash. I picked it because it is a Mayan squash, because I did a lot of backpacking in my youth, in mid-20s, 20 odd year ago, and absolutely love the Mayan culture. Visited a lot of ruins and things like that, so, and temples. So as soon as I saw that it was a Mayan one, I had to grow it. So I've still got one in these cells here, and I've got two here. And as you can see, they were both the same size, but can you see the difference in size of them now? From one being planted in a smaller pot to a larger one. So they do tend to grow better with the larger pots. And then obviously I'll be planting them out into the polytunnel beds. Then we've got Crown Prince there. Tromboncino's still not come out yet. And then we've got Marina de Choggia. Courgettes. You have one plant, you can feed a whole family. What do? Grow 20. I don't know why, but it's just this urge takes over, and I just end up over sowing. I mean, I oversow everything, but I don't know what it is about courgettes. I don't know. I just keep, I don't know. Put 3 to a pot, and then I think there's a space over there. There's a space in that cell. I'll just put another variety in, so I'll fill that as well. And then I'll think, oh, I've forgotten that one, so I'll put that in. So I just end up with 20. But I do give them away to people, so it's okay. In fact, I'll have to tell you another time about the story of the person that were walking past and I tried to give them courgette plants. Anyway, one for another video. So I've really calmed it down this year and I've only got a few growing. If I take you around here. This is Tondo Danizza, which is a round courgette. I've grown that quite a few years now. It's a very good grower. Then we've got Striato d'Italia. Got 3 of those. I did these last year as well. This is a striped courgette. We've got some patty pans under here. Not grown those in a few years. And then we have Black Beauty courgettes. So your peas and your beans, I've got lots growing. You can grow them outside, you can grow them inside, you can start them off now. I always do a few inside and a few outside. In, out, shake it all about. Let me show you what I've got growing at the moment. Look at this. What on earth? You can absolutely get off. Come with me, you. Broccoli. If you're only going to grow one kind, try the purple sprouting broccoli. That's a really good one that will just continue to keep growing and growing. Every time you pick it, more little buds and shoots will start growing alongside. And I had tons and tons of it. I was overrun with it, which is great because we eat a lot of broccoli as well. So sometimes it can be quite difficult. People have a bit of an issue with trying to grow a large head of broccoli, whereas the little sprouting broccolis are good because obviously they don't need to get to that size. So you're just growing little florets that you can go out and just keep picking and then have them for your tea. And they're really tasty as well, and they're so expensive in the shops, if you've noticed. You do tiny little punnets and they are quite expensive. Obviously taste better at home as well, don't they, when you grow them yourself, so it's always a bonus. So one thing I want to show you, red garnet amaranth microgreen, and I've just scattered the seeds on top of some wet compost, and I keep it moist as well. Now what I did was I did put some, as soon as I sowed them and wet them, I put a layer of newspaper on top just to firm down the seeds so that they definitely get onto the compost. And then as soon as they started sprouting, I lifted up the newspaper and I've just let them grow on their own like that in the light. You can still see some have still got the seeds attached to the little leaves. There they are. I'm going to let them grow a little bit longer and keep them moist, obviously keep them wet, and they should look really nice, shouldn't they? Just fancying up something like a cheese and tomato sandwich. Other things you can grow, potatoes, chard as well. I'm growing Bright Lights chard, which is a range of different coloured chards, which is nice to look at as well as good to eat. And you can make chard crisps with those as well, like you can do with the kale, which is really good. Celery as well. I'm growing a pink peppermint celery. It just tastes like normal celery really, but it's bright pink, so it's just something different, isn't it? I mean, you don't have to, you can just grow the normal. In fact, I've started off a golden celery as well, so I'm just waiting for that to come through. The radish. Now in the supermarket you tend to just see the normal round red radish, but there's all sorts. There's red and white, there's black, there's purple, there's all sorts of different colours. So first off, what I'm growing this year is the French breakfast. A good all-rounder really, nice long radish, very tasty, good raw, good in roasted with a bit of butter and a bit of salt. Oh, and I've not started sowing them yet, so like I said, I'll be starting these off shortly. So this is a black radish called cultivation, and it's a little bit different. It's a bit tougher on the outside than a normal radish, but it's black on the outside and white on the inside, but it's a nice interesting one to grow. And then we've got golden helios. Now I've not tried this one before, so this is a new one for me, but it's a nice golden radish, so I'll be again, I think I've got some kind of obsession with radishes, but I don't. They're really good to just sow in between places, so in between your lettuces, in between other crops. It's just a little right nice little fill. I mean, you might as well use the space and you get something to eat at the end of it as well. The next one is the Malaga purple. As the name suggests, it's a purple radish, white inside, purple on the outside. That I did grow and it was really good. And we've got some massive ones as well, really big. So the next ones that I am growing are hailstone, which is a white radish. I've already started sowing those outside. They're in the salad bar and they're just popping up now, as you can see. Kale. Kale that I like to grow is the curly scarlet kale is a really, really good one to grow. I also find that the pests like your slugs and your snails don't tend to bother with it as much as the green kale. Now, don't come at me if you find this completely different and you've experienced completely different than me, but that's what I found. I do find sometimes you've got little snails nestling inside the little curly leaves, but I haven't had complete devastation like I have with the green variety previously with those. So what I do with the kale, it goes in everything really. It can go in your curries, it can go in stir fries. But the favourite for me has to be kale crisps. Absolutely love kale crisps. And all you do is strip the leaf off the stem, mix it with a bit of oil, put it on a baking tray, a bit of salt on top, maybe a bit of pepper if you want to, or other spices as well. I've seen a few people other spices, maybe a bit of garlic, salt on there, different herbs and spices, but I tend to leave it just with salt. So a little bit of salt on. In the oven, 10 minutes, at gas mark 5. Keep your eye on it because it goes from, I'm not even bronzed in any slightest way, shape or form, to completely burnt in a matter of a blink of an eye. So really watch out for it. They come out so nice and crisp, and it's like the seaweed that you get from Chinese, because obviously it's not seaweed that you actually get from Chinese, it's cabbage, but that's what you get. So it's beautiful. So carrots. Now obviously you can do them outside. If you've got a nice fresh bed of compost, you can just sow them direct outside and it's absolutely fine. If you've got a bit of a rocky soil, a bit clumpy, a bit clayey maybe, bit of stones in there, anything like that, then you can get all sorts of shapes with them, which does make it interesting, but you will get all sorts of different shapes with them. Carrots like a nice soft, a nice soft journey. I'm there with my journey again. Nice soft journey. So what I do is I put them in pots. I found them better in pots as well. And if you do them in pots and you do them high enough, you won't get the dreaded carrot fly. Oh my goodness me. First time I've experienced it last year. Nightmare. So I do them in pots. Now what I do is, I have got a video on that as well if you want to have a look of how to actually sow them in pots. I do a big pot. Make sure that it's obviously deep enough for the size of carrot that you're doing. If you're only growing tiny little round carrots, you don't need a great big pot, do you? But make sure it's big enough. And I do a mix of 50% compost, 50% sand. Now I don't use the fine sand, I use a builder's gritty sand, because if you use a fine sand it just clogs up with water. When you're watering it, it just clogs it and it just holds it, whereas the gritty stuff soaks through. I'm doing that. Soaks through more. Now if your carrot's growing higher than 60 centimetres, you won't get the issue with carrot fly. Now what carrot flies do is they go in, they lay their eggs, they lay the little grubby things, and the grubby things eat all of your carrots, which obviously you don't want. I've never had an issue before because I've always done them in pots high enough and it's been fine. And I don't think they've actually know that they're in the polytunnel. That's why they've not got in here. But when I did them outside last year, they weren't high enough and the carrots were just completely ruined. So I'm going to do them again in here, but also outside, but just raise them high enough because they can't fly up high enough to actually get them if they're over 60 centimetres. So cucumbers, we've got the sikkim, which is a very weird looking one. True leaves coming out now, so they're all right. Telepathy there. Telegraph there, crystal apple and crystal lemon still not come through yet. I think the mice have been having a little bit of a nibble, so I'm going to replant some of those. Now I grow these in the polytunnel, but some varieties you can actually grow outside as well, so just check which ones that you're actually going to grow. Market more are okay outside. Crystal apple and crystal lemon, which are a round cucumber, one of my staples actually, those two. They're really, really good. Nice and crisp and sweet, and yeah, really juicy. They're really good. They're sometimes a little bit seedy, so there's a lot of seeds in some of them, but they are really tasty. They can grow outside as well, but I do tend to actually grow them all indoors. You can leave cucumbers trailing along the floor. I grow some direct in the ground, but I also grow some in pots as well, and I leave them trailing along the floor. I tend to do them more in the ground now because I just find that I can control the watering a little bit more with them in the ground. They sometimes dry out a little bit too much in this polytunnel with them being in pots. So they can grow along the floor, or you can build a trellis and they can grow up them as well, which I've built over here. So varieties that I've tried before that are really good: Market More, La Diva, that's a really nice one as well. Market More can sometimes be a little bit thick-skinned, so if you're not keen on the skin, I won't recommend Market More for you. But the La Diva is a really good one as well. Telegraph, huge cucumbers, not as big as the Armenian striped one, which hopefully I'll get this year as well. So they were fantastic flavour as well, and very little seeds in those. I don't think you can actually save this because you're lucky to actually see a seed in Telegraph, so you can't really save them and grow from them. I think they're an F1 variety as well, which you can't save. So if you see F1 on a packet of seeds, it means that if you sow that, you can't really save the seeds from that plant. So when you've grown it and it's got seeds there, you can't save them and regrow because it won't grow a true type again to what you've actually started. It might grow, but it won't be what you expected it to be. I mean, you might get some funky old veg growing, but it won't be the same. You can still sow your parsnips now. They'll be ready around about Christmas time, January time. They do actually like the frost. The frost actually starts off them being even sweeter than what they normally are. So if you let them go through the frost at the end of the year, you will get a sweeter parsnip. I've not grown them for about 8 years, so I'm unsure whether to actually start them off this year and have them. Because they're not a set sort of thing that we tend to eat anyway. So I'll have a think about it because it might be nice for Christmas time. Brussels sprouts, get your Brussels sprouts in for Christmas now. I'm growing Red Bull, which is a purple Brussels sprout, and I'm also growing a mix, which is, I think they're called continuous mix. I don't know, a green variety of Brussels. So if you sow them now, they will be ready for around about Christmas time, and you'll have them for your Christmas dinner. Now, a lot of people don't like Brussels sprouts, but I mean, we don't have them cooked either, so I grow them to eat them raw. And what I do is I make a carrot and Brussels sprout coleslaw, and it's absolutely beautiful. So a bit of mayonnaise, white wine vinegar, bit of honey, salt and pepper, and it's beautiful. It really is. So if you don't like Brussels sprouts, give them a go in this coleslaw. Just mix it all up, and it really is tasty. Cabbages, you can sow your cabbages. I'm not doing any this year. I find they take up quite a bit of space, and I've limited space in the plot, so I'm not growing them this year. But get them in if you want to grow them. So leeks can be started off. I've started mine off already, as you can see. So herbs as well, don't forget your herbs. Have them in pots on your windowsill, ready there for when you need them for cooking in your polytunnel or outside. Coriander did brilliant for me, sowing direct outside in the plot. So I had swathes of it. It was brilliant. I did in tacos, burritos, loads and loads of salads. I love coriander in salads. Now, it's a bit of a controversial one, is coriander, isn't it? Because lots of people don't like it. It tastes a bit like soap. But I love it, absolutely love it. I don't get the soapy taste at all, apart from the Vietnamese coriander, which is weird because it's said that if you have an issue with coriander tasting of soap, try the Vietnamese coriander. But I find it the other way around. Like, I have no issue with coriander whatsoever. Try the Vietnamese one, and it does taste like I'm eating washing up liquid. I thought, have I spilt some washing up liquid? Because I had it next to the sink. Have I spilt some washing up liquid on this plant? Whoa, it was awful, awful. But normal coriander's fine, so I've got some of that growing. Confetti coriander, I'm growing as well, and the larger leaf one, I can't remember what that's called. So things like dill as well. Dill does really well outside. As I'm walking past, I always pick a little bit and just eat it there in the plot. It just reminds me of holidays. I don't know why. It must be like salads, sun, holidays. It just reminds me of holidays, does dill, but it's really, really tasty. So try dill outside. Basil sometimes can be a little bit funny because it doesn't really like the cold. But I will be doing some outside anyway. I will try some outside again, but I tend to leave it indoors. So as well as your coriander, basil, dill, you can start sage off now, thyme, oregano, all sorts of stuff. Just try them all out. You have a look on the back because a lot of them do say that they can just be sown throughout the year, because obviously you're doing them inside anyway. So just try them off inside, in trays, in pots, in seed cells, anything like that. You can even just have a little pot on a windowsill, scatter some seeds in and let them grow. If you want to thin them out later, you can do. Obviously when you buy them from, if you buy them from a supermarket, they tend to have really, really oversown in the pots. So when you do buy them, break them up, just break them all up to individual and plant them in individual pots if you are going to do it that way, rather than sowing from seeds, and you'll get a whole range of a whole load of plants from just the one plant that you buy. So not forgetting your lettuces as well. We eat loads of lettuce, so I grow a lot of it. I sow loads of different varieties. Mainly the saladin iceberg lettuce, because I always think that a nice good crisp iceberg lettuce is always good in a salad anyway. But I grow loads of different mustard leaves, different mizunas and things like that. But I've got a few varieties that I've not grown before, so I want to go and show you really interesting ones called brown bath cos. I mean, it sounds both interesting and disgusting at the same time. They look alright, don't they? They were all sewn together like this, and I've just separated them out. And I've done one to each cell like this. And obviously flowers as well, don't forget your flowers, you can start those off. I've saved some to actually start direct in the garden. I'm going to create some beds and some borders as well, and start some direct sowing in there. But some of them I have started off in here, so I've done the sunflower seeds. Calendula is a really good one to grow, really nice bright orange flower. I've got Indian Prince, and then I've got the porcupine, which is a really deep orange colour. So that's it for this week. If you haven't subscribed already, if you'd like to do so, that'd be fantastic. If you'd like to like and click the little bell as well, it will notify you every time I put a video on. So I hope you all have a great week. Whatever you're doing, get sowing, get some seeds and get sowing, and just give it a go. And I shall see you next week. If you need any help, any advice, just ask. I'm always around to give you some help. And I shall see you next time. Bye.